All right, so phase 2 is turning this circle into a sphere, something that looks like it has dimension to it. So we've just finished the cube. I'm going to come down to the sphere level. Let's unlock it, click on it, and now I'm going to select the sphere. And I need to come over to the gradient button again. Yours might have leftover like red and pink on it. I'm going to click here, and it just decidedly, by default, puts in a linear gradient. Linear gradients are great for things like the cube down here because the walls are flat, right? Over here, the walls would not be flat. The wall is a circle or a ball shaped. So we're going to need to utilize a radiant gradient. So I'm going to click on the radial gradient. So let's set some colors here. Let's go with dragging a blue. Let's go for blue. So I'm going to put somewhat of a lighter blue down here. We got some white, we got some blue. Let's bring in a dark kind of navy blue in here. So it's very rich, but it's not pure black, right? All right, I can alter moving these sliders around. I can even move the diamond around to kind of get the transition from one color to another. But this isn't helping us find the light source. There's our light source over here coming down on it. So that means there would be a highlight on this top left portion of our circle. So that means we have to come back over here to the other gradient tool, which takes care of direction. All right. I'm going to grab this guy and I'm going to move him, the little black dot, move it over near the end. Okay. It's not at the end, but it's near the end. And I'm going to illuminate that just a little bit more. I'm going to pull this back in here. All right. So we've got this bright highlight happening near the edge of this sphere. All right. And now it feels a little bit more like a sphere since we have this illumination where the actual light source is coming from. I'm going to move it just a little bit more. Let's go click back on this. I'm going to move this little guy off. Let's see if we can get this whole thing to move out. I'm going to start way out here. Let's do that instead. There we go. That's getting us a little bit more of the illuminated side that we want to have. All right. And click on this. And it's going to go from all bright over in this side to something richer and darker over here. So I started by dragging with this tool here. I started off of the circle, all right, and dragged until I was in a desired placement. All right. Now, of course, this has its sense of location, but we now need to create a cast shadow that also goes with the location of the light source. So that means we're going to draw an oval because the shape of our shadow would be a slightly smaller, more narrow circle underneath the object. So I'm going to click on this. I'm now going to go back to a solid black color. Let me click over here. Let's get a cleaner black. There we go. And I'm going to create this oval. Okay, there's our oval. And again, let's move this oval to the back, right? So we're going to right click on it. We're going to arrange and we're going to send to the back. So now it's floating behind the object. Based on sort of where we're at here with the light hitting it, the light's going to be shooting out towards the right-hand side away from the actual light bulb, right? We can bring this open and a little bit more rounded, I guess. Let's go a little bit more round. And then we're going to go back to our opacity tool over here, and we'll take that opacity down again. So we have a little bit of see-through quality for our sphere. All right. So we used a gradient again. We just used something other than the default, which is the linear. Okay. We used, since this object was more spherical or rounded, we used the radial gradient and we moved it around where we wanted it. All right. Our last shape over here is something more organic in nature. Let's scroll up here, move my gradient panel out of the way. This is more organic. So we have to imagine where the bright areas would be, where the dark areas might be, back to bright. This side over here is going to be a little darker. It might be dark under here. So this is going to have us using not a linear, not a radial, but the freeform gradient. The freeform gradient, I'm going to select this object and lock our sphere. Here's our organic form, clicking on that layer. We're going to select this object and I'm going to click on the freeform gradient. There we go. And it kind of tosses in a whole bunch of surrounding colors. But don't be alarmed by the colors. You're going to have the opportunity. We're going to start to put colors in that we want to. Okay, so I'm going to choose something that's sort of in the green family. So let's go for, let's click over here and let's put ourselves something light green. Okay, notice when I click on a dot, it's going to, look at that, copy what it just used previously. Now, if I want to change this or change this back here, see it's highlighted, I can click on a different color and it will change. So the white rim reads that this is a highlighted object ready for change. I can, with this outer dotted circle and this, whoop, come back to me, there we go. I can pull on that and its radius will grow a little bit more if you like it. So you can kind of change the amount of that color's radius even on each of the dots. I'm going to click this guy down here. I'm going to add some more of that green down here because this is sort of the darker areas, right? Because this side is away from the light. And then there's more light areas over here, maybe some medium. So I'm going to click through here and I'm going to click on a medium green. And then I'm going to click over here for something medium. Then maybe over here, I'll click for something just a little bit lighter. Click for that little bit lighter. So I'm playing around with a little bit here. Let's go darker underneath there because it's going to be richer. This will be brighter. I'm going to try and get these darks even darker. Okay, so that means I'm going to deselect for a moment, click somewhere else. I'm going to come in here and I'm going to make myself some kind of a very dark green. So I'm going in the green section. When you come down to the right-hand side of the color picker area, I'm coming in for some really dark greens here, something like that. It's not black, but it's definitely not the kind of green that we see over here. I'm going to click OK, and there's that green there. I'm going to come over to my color picker, I'm sorry, to my swatches panel. I'm going to click the plus sign, and that adds this particular color right here. We did that before with the different pink colors, right? So now I'm adding it here. So I'm going to come back to my object. I'm going to click Edit the Gradient, and it's going to show me all of those little dots of color. And I'm going to come back to this dot of color, and I want to add my richer dark. Ooh, look at that. This really accentuates some of the shadows, right? You can feel how it's definitely heavier on the bottom sides of some of these things. There's the bottom side. I might not want to have it quite as dark over here because there's a little bit of light. So I'm going to go back to that one. All right. So we can see the illumination areas, and now we can see the definite darks. I think I'd like to illuminate a little bit more up here So I'm going to come over here again, deselect, going to come back. Let's find me a yellow green. Get me something a little bit more, maybe pastel. Let's see if I can get something a little bit lighter. We'll try that and click that in. Okay, so that looks a little bit lighter than what that was. So now back to the object, back to editing, and I'm going to click up here, and I'm going to add my little bit of illumination up there. I'm going to come over here, click that same kind of feeling, move that around a little bit. Move that one up on the top. All right. So we have this kind of glow. Move that one down. We have this top glow from the illuminated light that's coming from above. With me so far? Okay. So this definitely has a lighter side to it. Underneath is definitely much darker. We could play with it a little bit more, but what we have shown is we've shown super light, some light that's a little bit more color or the lime green. We have more true green. We even have some semi-dark and then some very darks to show that this object has some curves and hills to it. All right. I would probably put some kind of a shadow on the ground here. So let's go back to our shape tool. I'm going to deselect, go back to some kind of a shape tool, and I'm going to take this oval again, and I'm going to go something long and stretched here. And we obviously need black, right? We're going to right click on this object, right click, send it to the back. All right. Oop, I made a double. And let's put it back here. I'm going to make it a little bit more narrow. All right. And we're going to change this again to something more transparent. Right. And there we kind of loosely have some suggested areas of value. So let's look at the whole thing now. Let me close out some of these so we can see a little bit easier. So now we have the linear gradients here. We have the spherical radial gradient here. And then we have utilized the areas of the freeform gradient by being able to put different lights, mediums, and darks in so that this random, very freeform gradient, freeformed object has some feel of dimension to it. We gave shadows to everything. We made them more transparent. So now you can kind of go and save this as an AI file, save it as a PDF, and then save it as a PNG and upload all three of those.